Enzo Maresca about to lose his Man City job? Liverpool are ready to splash £55 million on Real Madrid's talent. Are Galatasaray eyeing up one of Manchester United's key men? And Jose Mourinho wants Bastoni. 200 likes on this video, and the new episode drops tomorrow. Hit that like button, and let's get straight into it. Let's just be brutally honest about what we watched at the Principality Stadium. Succeeding Pep Guardiola was always going to be a poisoned chalice, but Enzo Maresca's first competitive outing was a stark reality check. A 3-0 hammering by Arsenal. Ricardo Calafiori scores after 23 seconds. Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard join in, and suddenly, City are staring at a historic embarrassment. You have to go all the way back to Harry Newbold in 1906 to find a City boss losing their debut by 3 goals or more. And frankly, the football matched the scoreline. City were an absolute rabble going forward, and a complete shambles at the back. Maresca tried to play it down, pointing to a few chances they created before the second goal went in, insisting the reaction was positive until things got complicated. He's right that it's just the beginning, and the focus shifts to the Premier League next Sunday. But you cannot ignore the structural issues on show. Arsenal looked sharp, their passing was slick, while Maresca's side looked completely disjointed. The Guardiola shadow is immense, not just because of the trophies, but because his tactical setup is so deeply ingrained and constantly evolving. Maresca was his assistant. He knows the philosophy, but copying it and executing it at the highest level are two very different things. And then you look at the squad depth, which is where it gets really concerning. Ruben Dias and Mark Guehi are the only defenders over the age of 25. Omar Marmoush has never really looked like a credible deputy for Erling Haaland. That £200 million January spree brought in Kusanov, Vitor Reis, and Nico Gonzalez. But if they all walked out the door tomorrow, you wouldn't really miss them. They are already trying to ship out Tijani Reinders after dropping $50 million on him last summer, and Ryan Ait-Nouri remains a baffling acquisition. Maresca must have looked across at Mikel Arteta's extraordinary midfield options and just despaired. We have spent the last 2 years watching Guardiola slowly pass his peak, relying on pure managerial genius to keep an ailing squad competitive. Now the safety net is gone, and this looks less like a transition and a lot more like a decline. No side has won the league after lifting the Community Shield since 2018, so maybe the curse protects them, but the football itself was startlingly poor. Just a few months ago, the idea of Marcus Rashford pulling on a Manchester United shirt again felt completely unthinkable. Ruben Amorim had exiled him. The bridge looked burned, yet here we are, with Michael Carrick welcoming the forward back into the fold ahead of the Premier League opener against Hull City. The natural assumption right now is that Rashford stays and bolsters Carrick's attacking options. But if you think that saga is completely dead, you might want to hold that thought. Team Talk are suggesting that Barcelona have absolutely not closed the door on a reunion. Now, we all saw the Catalans refuse to trigger that bargain, £26 million permanent option at the end of his loan, which felt bizarre given he racked up 14 goals and 14 assists in 49 appearances. But the reports out of Spain insist they remain in active contact with his representatives and are firmly keeping him on their radar. The sticking point, as always, is the structure of the deal. Rashford is tied to Old Trafford until 2028, and United are completely unwilling to entertain another temporary move. Barcelona, naturally, would prefer a loan given the 2 years left on his contract, creating a frustrating stalemate. This entire situation hinges heavily on Barcelona's other attacking targets. They have already offloaded Ferran Torres to Paris Saint-Germain and watched Robert Lewandowski leave on a free, so they need firepower. They are pushing hard for Julian Alvarez, but Atletico Madrid are digging their heels in, insisting the Argentine is not for sale. If that move collapses, Rashford quickly becomes the primary alternative, in the dying days of the window. Should United actually sanction a permanent exit, it completely wrecks their own recruitment strategy, forcing Ineos to scramble for a winger on top of their midfield and left-back targets. For now, he is a United player, and the internal debate over his long-term future continues. But Barcelona are lurking, waiting for a domino to fall. £55 million. That is the figure Liverpool are reportedly prepared to put on the table to pry Endrick away from Real Madrid before the transfer window slams shut. According to Fichajes, the Reds are willing to test Madrid's resolve with a substantial bid for the 20-year-old Brazilian, having already circled him back in June when his valuation hovered around $60 million. It puts the Spanish giants in a rather awkward position. They initially shelled out $30 million to Palmeiras, plus another 21 in add-ons, so a $55 million offer guarantees a profit, but it completely disrupts Jose Mourinho's tactical plans. The Portuguese manager is actively counting on the striker for the upcoming campaign. Mourinho initially warned the lad he would be battling Kylian Mbappe for minutes, but quickly shifted his stance, integrating him into the first-team setup and even eyeing him for a role on the right flank. That managerial backing effectively killed off any potential loan moves, despite interest from Roma and Aston Villa. But a straight permanent transfer changes the entire financial calculus for Madrid. They have already splashed roughly £192 million this summer, heavily relying on player sales to balance the books. Accepting a heavy cash injection for Endrick might be too tempting to ignore from a purely financial perspective, especially since his time on loan at Olympique Lyonnais last season proved he can handle consistent senior minutes. Ultimately, the hierarchy at the Bernabeu will have to weigh the profit against the squad depth, but the final say rests with the player himself. If Liverpool formally lodge that bid, Endrick has to decide if he wants to stay and fight for his spot under Mourinho, or take the plunge into the Premier League. It is a fascinating standoff, and a £55 million offer certainly forces Madrid to sit down and crunch the numbers. Galatasaray are preparing an aggressive push to lure Bruno Fernandes away from Manchester United, and they are willing to completely shatter his current wage structure to get it done. The Telegraph is reporting that the Turkish side are poised to table a £43 million bid, alongside a 4-year contract that would make the captain an absolute fortune. We are talking about £18 million net annually, plus a hefty £3.5 million signing on bonus. Thanks to Turkey's highly favorable tax system, the 31-year-old would effectively double his current take-home pay. It is a staggering financial package designed to turn his head, especially with his deal expiring in 12 months and negotiations over an extension stalling. Dursun Özbek, the Galatasaray president, is clearly determined to make a statement signing. But here is the reality check. United have absolutely zero intention of cashing in. The hierarchy views the Portuguese playmaker as the undisputed centerpiece of Michael Carrick's project and want to continue building the squad around him. They hold a club option to extend his stay by another year, which keeps them firmly in the driving seat. Fernandes himself rejected astronomical offers from the Saudi Pro League last summer because his priority remains winning major honors at Old Trafford and competing in the Champions League. He is fiercely loyal to the shirt and feels he still has plenty to offer at the highest level of European football. He hasn't asked for a move, and United aren't even picking up the phone to discuss a sale. Galatasaray can throw whatever money they want at the table, but unless the player forces the issue, this double play is hitting a dead end. Convincing Alessandro Bastoni to move to the Santiago Bernabeu is the easy part. Convincing the Real Madrid board to pay for him is where Jose Mourinho is running into serious trouble. According to journalist Ruben Martin, the Portuguese boss has personally spoken with the Inter Milan centre-back and views the Italian international as the absolute ideal addition to his backline. Mourinho's urgency here is quite clear. He is deeply concerned about the timeline of Eder Militao's injury recovery and harbors genuine doubts regarding Antonio Rudiger's current form. To him, securing a top-tier defender is far more pressing than adding another body to the midfield. But there is a glaring disconnect between what the manager wants and what the hierarchy is willing to fund. Madrid made an informal approach during the World Cup, but Inter flatly refused to set an opening negotiation price. Instead, they simply pointed back to the £64 million valuation they previously handed to Barcelona, making it crystal clear they will not even entertain a sale below £51 million. That is a formidable asking price, and it is causing major friction behind the scenes. Florentino Perez genuinely believes the defensive unit has already been adequately addressed this summer, having already sunk heavy funds into Ibrahima Konate, Denzel Dumfries, and Marc Cucurella. From the boardroom's perspective, the checkbook is closed for centre-backs. They have explicitly informed Mourinho that another arrival will not happen under normal circumstances. The only way this materializes is if a sudden, unexpected departure creates a void in the squad, or if a serious injury forces the directors to completely reassess their strategy. Inter simply are not going to let their prize asset leave for a discount, and Mourinho's personal charm offensive does not alter that financial reality. So, while the manager has identified his primary target, getting the actual deal over the line requires a stroke of luck or a sudden crisis.